Hello there, welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life, where we're all about turning positive into a plus. Friday, July 21st is Zero HIV Stigma Day, so we're talking about that today. Joining me is Kalvin Pugh and our friend Zonke, who's in South Africa. Hello to you both.
Hello, Carl.
Hi.
Thank you both for being here. Kalvin, let's just start with you. What is Zero HIV Stigma Day? When did it start? What's it about?
Well, Zero HIV Stigma Day is an initiative by IAPAC, the International Association of Providers of AIDS Care, and NAS, which is a sexual health charity in London. We came together, recognized that there really wasn't a day to talk about the impacts and the effects of stigma on people living with HIV or affected communities. It felt important to us, where we have World AIDS Day, to recognize the history of our movement, but also the people who are still here. But there wasn't a day to isolate around the world that really spoke to the impacts and the effects of HIV stigma.
Yeah, I mean, HIV stigma really is something that all three of us can relate to, since we're all living with HIV. Zonke, why was it important for you to get involved with this particular day?
It's because stigma affects us all in different ways. We deal with stigma every day, almost every day in our lives. And I've been vocal in South Africa about the level of stigma and the impact it does to people in terms of taking their medication and disclosing their status to their loved ones. One of the examples is the treatment that we get at the health facilities, where we fetch our medication, where we suppose we should not get stigma because we deal with healthcare workers who we believe understand more about the HIV than the rest of the community, but that's where we get stigmatized a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the broader public, Kalvin, probably thinks of HIV stigma as something that comes from those who are uneducated about what it means to live with HIV these days. But for so many people, not just here in America, but as Zonke's pointed out, around the world in places like Durban, where she is, they are facing stigma from the very people who should know better and who are supposed to take care of them, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. And when we think about stigma, and especially this year for our focus, is really about kind of three forms of stigma. The institutionalized stigma, like Zonke was talking about, the interpersonal stigma between relationships and coworkers and those other folks around us, and then that self-stigma that manifests from those external sources that really impacts a person's ability to engage in health-seeking behavior and to take care of themselves.
Yeah, the internalized stigma is a big one. And I know for me personally, I didn't realize how much internalized stigma I had until I really started speaking publicly about this. What has stigma been like for you there in Durban, Zonke?
I think I'll agree with you. The internalized stigma is the worst. I also had one when I first found out I was HIV positive. But I think one of the reasons for us to have internalized stigma is the attitude that we receive from our families and from the community at large. If you feel like, for example, if your family is always negative about people who are HIV positive, then you'll feel you have no one to turn to and to understand you when you are HIV positive. So that's one of the reasons why we find ourselves having internalized stigma, and then we start taking wrong decisions about our health issues.
Yeah, Kalvin, I know, as I said earlier, you yourself are living with HIV. You're very hands-on. You're very involved within the community and at large in using your voice to change people's perceptions of HIV stigma. I know Zero Stigma Day launched last year. What's the reaction been like from sort of the top up, really, at government level and at institutional levels when we present days like this?
You know, when we announced the day last year, it was just to give an announcement that we intended to do this. gave us a whole year to plan and work with community to really build something that meant something, that we had something solid to share. And this year I've been meeting with government officials and government bodies and public figures who are just so excited that we're addressing this issue, because we're in 2023, 40 some years of this epidemic, and we speak still about stigma as an abstract problem instead of taking real action. So the government support, the folks who are higher up in those high levels of office are really so excited to participate this year because they also see the harms it's causing their own communities and their constituents.
You've said you've seen the detrimental effects of HIV stigma in preventing individuals from accessing HIV services. So when you have those conversations, what are they saying they want to do?
Well, our first conversation with any of these folks was surrounding our theme for this year, which is human first, because it coincides with the 75th anniversary of the Declaration on Human Rights from the UN. And really, when we've been talking with these folks, it's about really amplifying the message that these are human beings, and it should be a human right for people to access care. And it registers really easy with those government officials to think, oh, that's a human being. It's not someone who has a lab number or a medical condition. That's a human being who deserves dignity and respect. And so, they're looking at it from their level of they're going to help, share the day with their constituents and work towards a world where we don't experience HIV stigma any longer.
Zonke, for you, what does having a special day like Zero HIV Stigma Day mean?
We are recognizing that stigma still does exist. People believe that at this day, 2023, we've done a lot and there's no stigma anymore. They believe that everyone knows and understands what HIV is. So they don't believe that there is stigma. But what they don't understand is there are things that are still happening now that are still stigmatizing. There are phrases that they still use that are stigmatizing to an HIV positive person. So for me, this day, I think it will just be to raise awareness to the community especially, and also to the leaders, the political leadership, to understand that they need to stand up and take a stand and speak out against stigma in our country.
Yeah, Kalvin, let's be real. I mean, stigma is our number one kind of enemy when it comes to ending HIV. Is that a fair statement to make?
I think that's an absolutely fair statement to make. There's no path to ending the HIV pandemic globally without addressing stigma at every level, from institutional to personal.
What can people do here in the United States, Kalvin, if they want to get involved in Zero HIV Stigma Day?
Well, here in the States, the UK, anywhere globally across the world, they can certainly visit www.zerohivstigmaday.org. There will also be news about our upcoming film, Human First, that'll be there.
What about there in Durban? What can people do if they want to show their support, Zonke?
At the moment, we're busy with the U equals to U campaign. It's a new thing in South Africa, so the message is clear. We will never achieve U equals to U if we're not dealing with stigma. So we need to start dealing with stigma so that we can achieve U equals to U.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kalvin, Zonke, thank you so much for joining me. Zero HIV Stigma Day is this Friday, July 21st. That's going to do it for this episode of Plus Talk. If you want more information about the day or anything else that we talk about on Plus Life, go to the website, pluslifemedia.com, and you can follow us across all social media platforms. We are at Plus Life Media. Until next time, take care of yourself, be nice to one another, and remember, HIV stigma kills, so stop it. See ya.